It does seem brighter. Maybe there are some lights that are out. I don't know.
There's some over around without the bulbs in them.
It's 6 o'clock. I call this meeting to order for the November's Zoning Board of Appeal.
Hold on, Don. We're having some technical difficulties.
Oh, okay. They're putting in a new transmission thing over across from Maple Valley School.
Right now, we're good.
Already? Okay. It's 6 o'clock and I'm calling the October meeting to order for the Zoning Board of Appeal. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. All right. Can I have a roll call, please?
Tim Catron,
Here?
Rob Cook,
Here?
Donald Chase,
Here.
Sharon McCleary,
Here.
Mark Stahl,
Present.
Nikki Mulowski.
Can I have an approval of October's 7th agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Support.
We have a motion and support to accept the agenda for this meeting. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Approved. Can I have a chance here to read his minutes? Anybody have any questions on them? From the August?
I move to approve the August 5th, 2025 minutes.
Support?
We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes from the August meeting as written. All those in favor, aye. Aye, opposed? Thank you. Do we have any communications that we need to know about?
We do not.
We do not. All right. Do we have any public comments that do not refer to this meeting tonight? Hearing none, let's go right to the staff report.
This is a staff report for Zoning Board of Appeals Application BA 1025-4, a request by Chris Aiken, owner of Advanced Destinations LLC, for a variance from zoning ordinance section 7.7.4 minimum rear yard depth, 7.7.5 minimum side yard depth, and 7.7.6 maximum lot coverage to allow a rear deck to remain on the property. The property is located at 3024 Luella Lane, Section 27 of Brookfield Township. The site is .05 acres in size. The property is zoned low-density residential. The surrounding area is zoned low-density residential and local business and limited ag. Surrounding uses are residential, commercial, and agricultural. The appellant is requesting a variance to allow for an already constructed rear deck to be located 9.6 feet from the side west property line, 0 feet from the rear property line, and to allow an increase in the amount of 19% for the lot coverage. The appellant describes the request as would like a variance to allow the rear deck to be constructed to remain after a permit is obtained. Variance amounts requested are 9.6 feet from the side property line west, 0 feet from the rear property line south, which is also the water's edge, and 19% increase in lot coverage, 411.46 square feet. The applicant offers the following as justification. I purchased the home in 2024. Since purchasing, I have made several improvements to the property to make the home more appealing and safer. I was not aware I would need permits for the construction of the rear deck because it's only 1 foot in height. I have since discovered the deck requires a building permit and zoning approval. The deck I constructed is in line with my neighbor to the west. I constructed the bar on the deck so that there is a separation between my deck and their deck to act as a safety barrier between the two decks. In addition, not having the 6-foot portion of the deck toward my west property line could have caused a safety issue due to yard maintenance and the slope of my property. In my opinion, My options were to concrete the area or construct my deck in line with my neighbor's deck. In response to items A through E, the applicant offers the following. Item A, my property was created by way of a plat in 1941. This is at least 7 years prior to zoning regulations in Eaton County. I have attached a copy of the plat to my application. My property is only 2,154 square feet in size as legally described. This is smaller than the average home. The area behind my legally described property line is also a part of my property per the plat that was approved in 1941, which states lot line extends to the water's edge. Item B, my property is one lot, lot number 1 of Sutton's Lakeview plat. My neighboring property owners are made up of 2 or more lots, which make their properties larger than mine. Item C, while I constructed the deck, I incorrectly assumed that the deck was allowed without a permit or zoning approval. All of my neighbors adjacent to me have decks that cover their backyards and/or extend beyond the seawall. Item D, granting this variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. What I have constructed is in line with my neighboring property deck. Cleaning up my yard by constructing this deck adds to the value and safety of the neighborhood. Item E, the variance amounts requested are in the minimum amount necessary. Agency responses. Charlotte Fire Department, we have reviewed the variance request for Chris Akins for an already constructed rear deck on the property. We do not have an issue or any safety concerns related to the deck. Eaton Conservation District responded. The Board of Directors for the Eaton Conservation District met on September 30th, 2025 to discuss this application. They have no comment. Barry Eaton District Health Department approved, and I recently found out that the Brookfield Township heard the request last night and they approved the request as well. 20 surrounding property owners were notified by first class mail. No written responses were received. Staff comments. The property owner, Mr. Chris Akins, was notified of a violation for construction of a front and rear deck without proper permits and approvals and inspections in May of this year. Mr. Atkins met with staff to determine the best path forward. Due to the size of the property, which is a legal nonconformity, and the close proximity of structures to the property lines in the area, staff required a survey of the property prior to submittal of this application. The required survey is included with the application. Staff determined that the already constructed front porch could be approved and permitted without recourse to the Zoning Board of Appeals because it complies with zoning ordinance section 6.2.12, permitted yard encroachments. The minimum yard size and setback requirements of this ordinance shall be subject to the following permitted encroachments. Well, I listed the whole section. Specifically, it's item B, terraces, porches, and patios and decks, provided that they are not covered with a roof or that the deck area is not more than 30 inches above the average surrounding final grade, or that the deck or paved area is not fully enclosed by a wall or fence over 5 feet in 5.5 feet in height above the average surrounding finished grade, and provided that the paved area or deck is no closer than 10 feet from any lot line or public right-of-way. We have three larger lakes in Eaton County, Narrow, Saubie, and Lacey. The zoning ordinance does not speak to setback or lot coverage of structures, properties that are located on the water. The board may wish to discuss whether this variance request is due to a practical difficulty related to this particular property, and they may also wish to address whether the request is in the minimum amount necessary and if the appellant creates the problem. The finding of facts required when making a motion are listed on page 3. That completes the staff report.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the staff at this time?
I do. This might be a question for Mr. Atkins, but I'm generally not used to seeing a business listed after the owner's name all the time. Is this like an Airbnb or a rental or?
It has that potential to be. Right now, it is simply his vacation home, but we don't regulate short-term rentals or rentals in Eaton County. So it is quite often that we have LLCs that own properties in Eaton County.
So it's the LLC that's the owner. That's why you've listed it. Okay.
Correct. And Mr. Atkins is the resident agent for the LLC.
Okay. The surrounding property owners that also have decks up to the property line, were those all older than our ordinance, I'm assuming?
They were not, and I found no record of permits, but they have been there for quite a long time.
Okay. I think that's all my questions. Thank you.
I have a question. What exempted the front porch from a variance and not the rear deck? From item B, the terraces, patios, porches, and decks?
So we're allowed to permit the encroachment as long as it's at least 10 feet away. So I'm glad you asked that question, because rather than the setback restrictions of Article 7, because it meets the definition under Article 6 for permitted encroachment, the ZBA could consider a variance from that to allow it to be closer to the property lines.
Okay, now you lost me.
So within your staff report, I listed permitted encroachments per the zoning ordinance.
Yes.
Section 6.2.12, permitted yard encroachments. The minimum yard size and setback requirements of the ordinance shall be subject to the following permitted encroachments. There is something for permitted or existing buildings or structures, but for item B, terraces, patios, porches, and decks, provided that they are not covered with a roof and that the deck or paved area is not more than 30 inches above the average surrounding grade, so meaning the height of the deck, or that the paved area is not fully enclosed by a wall or a fence of over 5 1/2 feet in height above the average surrounding finished grade, and provided that the paved area deck is no closer than 10 feet from any lot line or public right-of-way line. So if this were 10 feet from the rear and side property line, he would not have needed to come to the Zoning Board of Appeals,
Right.
because it meets the rest of that definition for permitted encroachment. So rather than hearing the normal setbacks to a side and rear property line, you could consider the variance underneath this section of the ordinance.
Oh, okay. Instead of taking all three individually, is that what you're saying?
Yep.
But Brandy, do I understand that, I guess it's the front deck, is 10 feet away from the property line?
It is more than 10 feet to the side and to the right-of-way.
Okay. It's just not on our survey as that line, so.
Yep.
I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
And it's less than 3 feet above grade.
Correct. And prior to the 2012 Michigan Building Code, I mean, I know where Mr. Aiken got that he didn't think he needed a building permit, because it used to be that if a deck was less than 24 inches in height, it didn't require a building permit. The building code has since changed numerous times. We're under the 2015 building code. Actually, sorry, 2009 is when that was an exemption. 2012 is when it changed to any point of ingress, egress required a permit.
Do we have any more questions for the staff? Hearing none. Do we have anybody out there that would wish to speak? Thank you. Please state your name.
Good evening. My name is Chris Adkins, and I am open to any questions that you guys may have.
Thank you.
Anything you'd like to add to the staff report?
No, I think we summed it up pretty good in this, and she's pretty knowledgeable on that.
Does the deck stop at the water's edge, or is it cantilevered out beyond the edge?
On one side, it does, not much. The way that the backyard is set up is it's about 16 feet on one side, and then it's a little less on the other side. So I went up to that 16 feet, and then I just went straight across, just so it kind of looked uniform with the other decks around me. But no, there's no need for like support or anything out over the water.
That's exactly what I was wondering.
Mhm.
And it is short enough that it did not need to be engineered.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I also wondered if you've gotten any blowback from the neighbor with that shed that's on the property line?
Not at all. I asked him if he was okay with it before we built it, and he said, I don't care, in lesser words.
Okay.
What was the condition of the backyard prior to building the deck? Was there any topography or issues with the backyard that needed remedy or rectification with the deck installation?
Not remedied, just we have 2 young daughters, and having them come out there kind of the way it was existing, I just didn't feel that it was safe. So it was either concrete or do the deck, and we decided that that was the best route to go.
Do we have any more questions? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody in opposition to this in the audience? Do we have anybody who's speaking for it in the audience? Hearing none, I'll close that and we'll entertain amongst ourselves.
I immensely dislike these little lots on the lake. These little lots always seem to find their way to us. And we've granted a number of variances because they are very difficult to work with. In this particular case, however, I'm really struggling with item E. The minimum amount necessary doesn't, to me, need to be right over to the property line, where his bar area is. So I struggle, everything else, I feel like we've been through this with other properties. They're just difficult. But I'm struggling with the minimum amount necessary.
So I can appreciate that position, but the variance amount on the west side is 9.6 feet. And based on the position of the existing structure on the lot, the survey shows that it's only 6 feet off the property line as it is. So that would pull the deck back to, 3 feet inside of the structure as it is. So it wouldn't even really line up. You could, make an argument that, well, the minimum amount would be to line it up with the edge of the structure. And,
And that's the 6 feet you're referring to,
yeah,
if I'm reading this right,
it shows neighbor shed and then it shows
Yep.
6 feet there.
to the edge of the resident.
Yeah, but,
Yep.
so I mean, that doesn't really make sense. I don't know. The part I struggle with is that they have, in the survey on the last sheet there, they've got found irons and iron set that are from the original plat that don't line up with the water's edge. So this guy kind of has an unfair deal going on here where he's got property that extends beyond his technical property line that everybody else is built on, that he's not allowed to build on. So I guess I would recommend that the zoning ordinance committee review, for clarifying the definition of lot lines when it comes to these lake lots like this that are platted, for what is the precedence? Is it the water's edge, or is it the platted property line, or is it the mean water line? Is there an outflow that regulates that, typical water's edge that defines what this guy's usable, buildable property is?
And Member Stahl brings up a really good point, because the technical ownership of the property per the plat is to the water's edge. Well, the water's edge changes from year to year to year to year to year. Back in 1941, Narrow Lake looked much different than it does now. So his lot coverage restriction is based on the legal description of his .05 acre parcel. It doesn't include the area that is to the water's edge that he owns per the plat. I have no way to describe that, neither does a surveyor. So Member Stahl brings up a very valid point.
So then who owns that extra footage?
The property owner does. Per the plat, and it's typical around lakefront properties, the physical property at the time that a plat along a lake is created is what is surveyed out. But then they always give that exception that they own to the water's edge because lakes tend to swell or, depending on climate and whatnot, lakes get bigger and smaller. So they try to define who owns that property when a lake gets bigger and smaller. And that's how it's covered within the plat.
And then on the vice versa, like you couldn't own out into the water, so you couldn't deny people access through the water, like if they were wading around through, you know, navigable waterways or they're out there in a kayak, you can't say that they're on your property because they're on the water proper. So that's why it's to the water's edge.
Okay.
In my mind, I'm not speaking from a legal standpoint or on behalf of the county by any stretch of the imagination. But that's the other reverse of that example.
Sense.
I still can't tell you what the minimum amount necessary is.
Except that I don't think it makes good sense to have a 6-foot fairground strip down the edge of the property. I'd prefer the deck go to the edge.
The Board of Appeals may consider that to be what could be called dead space, meaning space that is unreasonable to maintain without causing damage to the neighboring property.
That's exactly my point.
Well, now you have a word.
I do. And it sounds better.
It does sound better.
Any other conversation? Want me to take a stab at it?
Well, I guess before you stab at it,
All right.
I did like Brandy's suggestion. Sorry, Tammy, I'm using it. Having a variance from, Article 6.2.12 versus 3 separate variances, I think is worth considering.
Okay.
I also feel like it sets a better precedent for us in the future.
Something to consider is that 6.2 does not address lot coverage. So if that could also be addressed
Okay.
and potentially the difference between the legally described property and the water's edge.
I'll try. Jeremy, I'm gonna need you to keep me honest, all right? So I'm gonna move to approve BA-10-25-4. For a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals zoning ordinance, section 6.2.12 for permitted yard encroachments. Item B, terraces, patios, porches, and decks, that they are not covered by a roof or that the deck or paved area is not more than 30 inches above the average surrounding final grade, or that the deck or paved area is not fully enclosed by a wall or fence over 5.5 feet in height above the average surrounding finished grade, and provided that the paved area or deck is no closer than 10 feet from any lot line or public right-of-way line. Whereas in this particular case, the practical difficulty is with the inherent size of the lot as it was platted in 1941 prior to zoning in Eaton County, where the total square footage of the lot as described in the plat is 2,154 square feet. Whereas according to the survey, there's a trying to think of the correct word I want to use here. A variance in usable lot space between the described property line and the water's edge. And whereas the west 9.6 feet that would otherwise need a variance is otherwise unusable dead space between the existing legal non-conforming residence and the lot line. Okay? So, practical difficulty is due to the unique circumstances related to this particular parcel, due to its size, the fact that it has hardly any square footage, the fact that it's on a lake with a water's edge description that is not constant or set permanently. The problem was not created by the appellant. The granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the district or neighborhood, so he's built it so that it kind of flows with the other decks and structures consistent with that area. That this variance is in the minimum amount necessary to overcome the inherent inequity inherent to this particular property, given that he built the deck squared off to the structure in the back in the minimum amount to the existing concrete retaining wall.
I am happy to support you. Are we going to handle the lot coverage as a separate variance? Or would you like to include that?
I can include it. The lot coverage is in the minimum amount necessary due to, again, the 6-foot dead space on the west property line, the location of the seawall, and squaring the deck off to the existing concrete retaining wall. So, and again, the fact that the entire lot is only 2,154 square feet does make that a unique circumstance.
I support.
We have a motion and a second to support this variance. We'll have a roll call vote.
Tim Catron,
Yes.
Rob Cook,
Yes.
Donald Chase,
Yes.
Jeremy Clary,
Yes.
Mark Stahl,
Yes to approve.
Mr. Aiken, do you have your drawings for your deck yet? The drawings for the front and rear deck? No. Building drawings? Okay. If you'd like to call my office tomorrow, probably going to be difficult to get a hold of me, but we'll talk about what that looks like and how to proceed with getting your actual building permits and zoning approval. Okay? Thank you for your patience and your time.
Do we have any more public comment? Hearing none. Do we have any meetings next month?
We do not, but we are on new business.
Okay, that was next.
New business.
Approve our schedule.
Before we get on to the new business of that, The Planning Commission was directed by the Public Works and Human Services Committee to hold a public hearing to take the public input on considering to rescind the entire, the zoning ordinance in its entirety. That public hearing will take place on Tuesday, October 28th at 6 o'clock. So the Planning Commission will take in the public comment and then make a recommendation to Public Works and Human Services, who will make the recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. At this time, even though that public hearing is taking place, I am working with a lot of our bigger applicants, like our surface mines, to get them compliant prior to if any changes take place, prior to any changes taking place so that they are protected.
Well, I would still move we approve the proposed 2026 schedule presented tonight by staff.
Support?
We have motion and support on the new schedule. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Do we have any upcoming cases coming up?
We do not.
Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Don't move.
Support.
We have a motion and support to adjourn.